Welcome to the Thought Leadership Podcast, where we share insights on how you can become the go-to thought leader in your niche. I'm your host, Alejandro Sanoja, founder and personal branding consultant at Latinpresarios. And today, our guest is Carol Kaemmerer. Carol was named one of the top 6 top personal branding experts in 2022 by the American Reporter. The second edition of her book, LinkedIn for the Savvy Executive, published last year, received Book Authority's Best LinkedIn Books of All Time award and has been chosen by the C-Suite Network as one of the top 100 plus best business books. In addition to her one-on-one executive branding work with C-Suite leaders, Carol is a popular speaker and member of the National Speakers Association. So Carol, I've been wanting to have this conversation for a while. And one of the things I wanted to start with is how can executive make a transition from the physical world to the digital world? Because I see a lot of experts out there and I can only have some ideas about it, but my thinking is that they think, oh, I already have a reputation. I've built a career. I don't really understand this digital world and I don't want to make a mistake. I don't want to damage my reputation. I'm doing great. My career is great and I don't want to take risks. But of course, on the other side of that risks are opportunities to reach more people and accomplish many different things. So I know you're expert on this particular topic. So I wanted to get your take. What is it that you usually see that prevents executives from making that transition from being a known expert in the physical world to doing the same in the digital world?
Okay, so what is the pain point? Why do they do that? Why do they want to have an online brand? So there are many, many reasons. If they are, for instance, a business owner and they're trying to do business with a much larger organization, they are aware that people from that organization are looking at their LinkedIn profiles. You know, everybody's got a profile, whether they've done much with it or not. You know, they probably have a profile. And when you start to see, oh my gosh, people are looking at my profile and they're making judgments about who I am, and it's not up to date and it's not who I am, and I haven't done anything, that's a moment when they say, oh my, I need help. Another moment might be, my company is a target for acquisition, and I want to make sure that I am in the best position and that all my other C-suite executives are in the best position to represent themselves so that we might have some possibility of positions in the new organization. Or if we decide to leave of our own accord, we'll all have a good launching point because we've talked about our brand in a way that is already attractive. Mm-hmm. So those are 2 reasons. Another reason is the company's already decided that they've got to cut off a part of the company because they need to increase their return on investment, and they decide to eliminate a whole division. Mm-hmm. That executive is on the wrong side of the door now. And they know, and rightly so, that if they don't have an online brand, they have no possibility of being found for those next positions. And so that's why it's so important. And, you know, each of these has its own pain point. Mm-hmm. You realize somebody's looking and you never really thought about that before, but people are looking and they're making first impressions. And because LinkedIn is a search engine, If it's
Mhm.
not finding you because you have such a skeletal profile, that's a bad deal too. So if you specifically are looking for new clients, new customers, new situations, it's important to have an online brand. And it's scary if you haven't done it before to take it on your own.
That is true. And I think a lot of what happens is that they see the big people doing it, right? There's this idea that, okay, celebrities build a personal brand, known leaders build a personal brand, and the way they do it might not be what you feel comfortable with, right? Like there's
Right.
people that share everything they're doing all the time, and it's almost like a
Oh,
reality TV show. And that's just one way, right? Like if you look at the different ways to do it, there's people who show their family and everything, like Grant Cardone, and they put their kids and they do videos. There's other people that show everything about their life but their family. Gary Vaynerchuk, he doesn't show anything. And then there's other experts like Ray Dalio and Jordan Peterson, more on the academic side, that they just show their expertise. You
right,
don't see anything about their personal lives or anything. It's just like, here's what I'm an expert on, and
right.
if you want to consume this content. So I think that's a big misconception, that there's one way. No, there's several ways to build a personal brand. And I wanted to go deeper into that because you have a great line that says, make LinkedIn understandable. So could you please share with us what are some of those biggest misconceptions that you see when people are new to the game? They either they find themselves on the wrong side of the door, or for the reasons that you mentioned, they decide, okay, I'm actually going to do it. What do you see them struggling with at the beginning?
One of the misconceptions is that our profiles should look just like everyone else's profile. And especially at the C-suite level, that is a horrible idea because most C-suite executives have skeletal LinkedIn profiles.
Hmm.
Absolutely very, very little on there. They have their job titles going back to when they got their MBA. They've got their school, and they've got something about their current position, and very little else. Of course, they have a great picture because, you know, if you're working for a corporation, your marketing people wouldn't let you get by without having a great picture. And they might even have a company banner,
Hmm.
and that's great. But if you're trying to emulate a CEO that has a skeletal profile, it's not going to advantage you because LinkedIn is a search engine, and search engines eat keywords for breakfast. That's how we feed a search engine. If you have a skeletal profile, that is, you have very little text, there's nothing to find you. There's nothing
Hmm.
to distinguish you. Um, Besides not being found by the search engine, when um, somebody that might want to work for you looks at your profile, they're not attracted. So in this day of the Great Resignation, my goodness, we are having a whole new audience that is looking for the leader that they want to work for next.
Hmm.
We have so many people out there actively willing to sign up anywhere else with any better leader than they currently are having. And if you are a great leader, but you don't have a great profile and it doesn't show how you lead, and how you lead with passion and purpose and what your principles are, why would I want to come work with you? And
Hmm.
so those are some of the reasons that you would want to have a great profile. And I forgot your base question, I think.
I think it was about that, right? Like, what are some
Okay.
of the misconceptions? But there's so many ways we could go with that.
Oh,
I,
yes.
I like what you mentioned about the skeletal profile, because one of the biggest mistakes that I see people do, you mentioned the banner, you mentioned the headline. A lot of people just list their job, and it's like it's such a valuable real estate.
It
it,
is.
it follows you everywhere. But I see a big mistake that people do is that they can create a company page, because a lot of people just, let's say they are that executive that they were a company, now they're doing consulting on something on their own, they go and list it, but it doesn't look professional because they didn't create the company page, right? And it looks like a random banner there.
Yes. You know what I say to those friends of mine who have consulting businesses, or even who have a new manufacturing business that's just, they just started it, and they haven't um, they haven't been in the digital age long enough to know that when you have no logo for your company, a company for which you are responsible, on your LinkedIn profile, you look like you have a hobby instead of a business. It is a huge, huge gaffe to miss that piece of eminence, personal eminence of that logo. Another thing that I see all the time is somebody who misspells the name or gets the name wrong of a company they used to work for, and may have changed names, and they get no logo. It's like it's really important to spell Procter and Gamble correctly in order to get the logo. With schools, that happens. I was looking at a senior exec's profile, and he went to Pepperdine. Fabulous. Pepperdine's a big school. You would think when no logo showed up that he would think about, why does Pepperdine not have a logo on LinkedIn? Well, it's because he didn't use enough P's in the word. And, I looked it up just to make sure before I talked to him about it. And yeah, he just misspelled it like I thought. So that notion of having all of the eminence that we're due, we work for a company, it should have a logo. And when people say to me, well, I don't want to create a company page and get that logo, because then I'll have one more thing to post on, and I don't want to do that. And I say to them, no, you don't have to post all that often. And it's so important that the logo appear on your profile.
Yeah, and it's such an easy fix.
It is.
And I understand, like I've learned, as we grow and learn, we understand that there's many different ways to do things, right? So I used to see profiles that did not have a lot, and I would say, how is this person having success in the professional world? And then you understand there's just many ways to do it, right? Like you might never ever logged into LinkedIn, and you can have a successful business just doing everything in the physical world. But I think it's a good point that if you wanna make that transition, you have to play by the rules of the game. So paying
Yes.
attention to those little details matter. And I want to go back to something you mentioned, Carol, that is that executive that has all their jobs, going back to their MBA. Would there be a point, like what would be your recommended point or stage in someone's career to stop listing some of their professional experience? At what point it's better? I don't remember
It is less
who.
more.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, one of the things that I use as a guideline is that we need at least 15 years of your experience showing. But there is some advantage to listing some things that were long ago and far away, because sometimes, they're high up now, they're the chief operating officer, but really it connects with people to know that they started, in the machinery room. They started and then they were advanced to the person who's in charge of the whole operation of the assembly line. And then, they grew. So when I find that some of those things are important, but we don't want to telegraph exactly how old is this person.
Mhm.
And with each job that you enter, you have to have dates. And so sometimes I put it in the about section, starting from early days in the assembly line or whatever. I grew my technical expertise and then got my MBA and, climbed the corporate ladder. So another thing that happens often is that you've got way back in your history 2 or 3 heavy hitter companies that really would be important to name drop. But you don't have to put them in your chronology if they're long ago and far away. You can name them in your about section. Or another thing that I do is I will give a listing that says positions prior to 2000 blah blah blah, or prior to 1997, or whenever you stopped writing your chronology. And then the notion that you can list those randomly without a whole lot of whoopla, but you get the name of the company in there. And when someone is looking for a top level executive, sometimes they're looking for people who have Fortune 500 experience, for instance, or they're looking for people who do have that connection to the common person who's working in the factory. And those things can be important. So, sometimes I just drop them in, and we don't list them as an experience per se, but we get their name in there and what they did.
Yeah, that's a great point to take them out, but still put them in the about.
Yeah.
Because and this is something you can do. You can look at your profile and search terms, and you can see what you're appearing for. But it's super valuable because, as you're mentioning, sometimes they look for people with experience in a certain company, like ex Deloitte or ex something.
Right.
And if you take it out, you're not showing up. But if you put it in the about, that's a great insight. I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Now, Carol, let's say you have this executive, they are on the wrong side of the door.
Yes.
What should their 90-day plan look like if they want to be found on LinkedIn? If they want opportunities to come to them on LinkedIn, what would your recommendation be for that 90-day plan?
Okay. I would say they need to have at least 3 weeks beyond their termination date to rest. Really, it is very, very hard to work with someone who has just been shown the door. I suggest to people who call me right away, on the day after they are terminated, let us begin in 3 weeks. And one of the things that you cannot do is work with someone on identifying their stellar points when they are so wounded. It's very seldom that somebody can come away from finding that they've been terminated and just dive right in and talk about their greatness. We need a little healing time. But then, when we're ready to work, and I usually think that 3 weeks is, a safe time to begin. And I can tell on the phone if it's going to be a safe time. If they cannot stop talking about with vitriol about the experience, then they're not ready to work. They're not ready to interview. They will cut themselves off at the knees in any interview. They are just not ready to be out there. When we can put in perspective, well, this kind of thing happens to a lot of people, and the company needed to reduce overall costs, and I was someone that they could reduce significant, by reducing my salary to zero. When you can put it in perspective, then you're ready to work with someone on developing your online brand on LinkedIn for the purposes of a job search. I really don't like to work with somebody sooner than that. So the other thing, I work very quickly with someone. I have two 2-hour meetings, and in between, while they are hopefully resting, I am writing my heart out, trying to get text that fills the space. I write to the margins, because when we write a lot about what we love, our keywords will spill out and do the job for us of helping us be found. So I'm writing, and then we get back together in a week and we wrap it up. Because I know that when somebody's ready, they want that profile now. But, it does take some time to bring all the pieces together and to make the beautiful picture that will be effective for them. So within the first month, you've had 3 weeks of resting and 1 week of working on their LinkedIn profile with a professional. Beyond that, I recommend a heavy dose of using LinkedIn to connect again, reconnect with friends that you have known across the years, letting them know what's happened, setting up, virtual coffee or in-person coffee if the time is right, or you're in the same time zone and could possibly do that. Yeah. And networking is just huge. I also recommend that they have a plan for actively showing up on the platform every day. So one of the things is, when you have been removed from your job, you are not anywhere. No one sees you. You are sitting in your home office, being isolated and scared. When you engage on LinkedIn, you show, yes, she's still out there, or he's still out there. Yes, still a subject matter expert. Yes, still friendly. Oh, I remember when we were working together at such and such company a couple of years ago. That was a friendly person who always knew XYZ. So I recommend that they comment on other people's stuff. I recommend that they begin to post their own material, that they post articles that are on brand for them. And I give them, strategies for finding those on brand articles, so that they'll have something. I give them strategies for how do you quickly write a little blurb about the article that you're going to post to make it appealing for people to open. And, working with them and their personality, we figure out what it is that they're going to be able to do. And the notion is that they need to see people or talk to people every day, and they need to do it not only in person or online through Zoom, but also online through LinkedIn, so that they actually are top of mind. You've seen them recently, in whatever media you happen to be looking, you are encountering them. And that's so important, to find those hidden jobs. Spending all your time on Indeed and Monster, I guess it's called. Anyway, that's not where my clients need to hang out. My clients need to be calling their connections. And many times the position is created for the person.
Mhm.
It's important to realize that those senior level positions are hardly ever posted on Indeed and Monster.
Do you find, Carol, when people are going through that transition and putting those efforts into the digital presence, that is with the goal of finding another job, or is it with the goal of starting their own entrepreneurial activity?
Oh, you know, both are possibilities. It I can't say, because some people are testing during that period. Can they make it as a consultant? Can they make it as an entrepreneur? And they'll put their toe in the water and see if they get some traction. Um, Either way, they need the support of people that have been friendly to them in their lives in the past. One of the things that happens to almost all of us is that when we are working and the job is demanding a lot of us, we've got our nose in our computer and we are not paying attention to all those people that we've known all over,
Mhm.
throughout time. And this is definitely a time where people are needing to reconnect.
Now, Carol, let's say I know you have several different offerings on how to help people. And let's say one of those executives was making a transition and they were thinking, no, I want to go through the entrepreneurial route. I want to build my personal brand and my presence on LinkedIn to create my own business. If they had to pick between speaking, digital courses, or coaching, what would you recommend them to put their focus on first out of those three offerings?
Speaking, tell me again.
Speaking, digital courses, and coaching. I know you offer some versions of those through LinkedIn and through your website. So I wanted to get your thoughts on what would you recommend someone who is starting if they wanted to build some type of revenue stream.
Yeah. Okay. So I think doing coaching, offering your wisdom is something that they are likely to be able to do without a lot of extra, learning. And
Mhm.
when you are going out on your own for the first time, it's wonderful to be able to use your native gifts as opposed to trying to, all of a sudden become a speaker. It's
Mhm.
not going to
Mhm.
work. Um, so, doing some kind of coaching is a great way to start. Um, and I think an awful lot of people in their first year out of, corporate life find that friends are creating opportunities for that. What I found years and years ago was that the first year, most of the people that are your clients are people that you already knew.
Mhm.
And by the second year, you should be getting traction with people that you never met before. If you're not, then it's time to look inside again because it's not working for you.
And then I know you speak a lot about this. You have it everywhere on your website, and you're an experienced speaker. Not only you focus on the coaching component, but you also speak about these topics. If there was somebody out there, let's say they're already a good speaker, but they are not maximizing that in terms of revenue, what would you recommend that person who is an expert, who is transitioning? They are good speakers, but they've never turned that into a revenue stream. What would be the first steps for them to be able to do so?
Okay. I would say they need to be, they need to have a speaker one sheet, which is something that most people that are going to book speakers are going to expect. It's a little one-page brochure, usually 2 sides, and it tells what your subject matter expertise is, and perhaps has some testimonials from people in the audience. And perhaps you have a list of places where you've spoken before, or a list of publications, if you were a scientific kind of a speaker, something that demonstrates that you have subject matter expertise. And then you need to send it to somebody. It's not enough to work with a designer to get a pretty brochure about yourself. Then you have to send it someplace and make it apparent to people that this is one part of your income stream. I also recommend joining the National Speakers Association.
Now, I know you do this on your profile, but what would be your recommendation in terms of being found for that as well? Right? You have your keywords and topics you will want to be found for, but then you also we want to found for speaking engagements. Are there any special steps that you will recommend people do on their profile so that those opportunities also come to them?
Yes. Okay. So if you were to look under words, I did this once for a presentation that I was making to my local chapter of the National Speakers Association. I looked at words that you could use to describe your speaking, and there were like 42 words, motivational speaker, workshops, facilitator, lots of words associated with that. You need to pick what it is you want to say. Professional speaker is a good thing to say, because it does telegraph that you are not somebody who developed this casually on the side. This is like a big deal to you. And it has been recommended to me also that if you really want it to be a major part of your business, it should say paid professional speaker. So you can put that in your headline. You can put it in your about section. You can have a separate section. It's not just one job that we have to have. We can divide our job into multiple sections. I think I've got mine mostly listed as one, and then I've got my author kind of separately because I wanted to showcase my books. But you could have one for speaker, one for coach, one for author, all at the same time. LinkedIn doesn't care how many things you do, and each time you list it, it's a keyword. So find out what kind of speaking you want to do, and make sure that you have looked very carefully at the skills list, at all the words that might apply, and make sure also that you have them listed in your skills. We have,
I want to
50
I want to
skills.
definitely go ahead.
Oh, we have the ability to list 50 skills, and we should make them count.
Yeah, I want to go deeper into that. I also want to go into, because you mentioned the paid component, it's important. And I remember, I don't remember who was doing it at the time, but I thought it was a good strategy to have a form. And then you have a question, because when I started I would go anywhere and speak because I just had fun, and it was interesting to share your knowledge with other people. Then I started doing some guest lectures, and at some point, it takes a lot of time to
It does.
prepare and to really craft the message for that particular audience.
Mhm.
So I don't remember which book, but they have a really good way of, instead of kind of like saying no to the opportunity, you just have it on your form where there's a question, location, date of the speaking engagement, etc. And then we hire speakers in the range of, and then you put several ranges, right? So it's not, you don't want to make it just about money, but you do want to say, hey,
Yeah.
this is actually something that I do for a living. But I want to go deeper into the skills. I have some dark stories about that. Maybe we can make time for that. But I wanted to get your thoughts on how can people maximize that skill section? Like, 'cause it's important for your profile to show up for the topics you want to be known for. And then it's important not only to list them, but to get endorsements. So any
Mhm.
strategies and tactics on how to maximize that section of your profile?
Okay. So at the beginning of every consultation, I have um, three big branding questions, and um, they all kind of work together. So I'll just share them with you and your audience. The first is, what are the three things you want to be known for?
Hmm.
The second is, what are your differentiators? What are your superpowers, or the things that people come to you for every time? Um, and then the last is, what are your key words? And before we even get to the skills section, I will sit there with a piece of paper and write down what they say their keywords are. And I'll listen to their keywords and I'll say, but how about regulatory? It's like I've heard some of what they do, and I know a lot about careers, and having worked with an awful lot of people. And so I'll say, okay, this is an area. How about this? How about that? Um, and then the other thing that I do in that just exploratory thing, before we even get to the skills inventory, I say to them, tell me about your soft or essential skills,
Hmm.
those skills that have to do with people interaction and problem solving and communication. Let's talk about those. And, we have a whole list there. Then we go to the skills. And I say, okay, when we were talking about our keywords, um, some of these things don't seem to be on your list. And some of the things that are on your list seem to be things that you probably delegate 2 levels down. Let's take off the ones that you don't need. So,
Hmm.
we X a bunch. And I say, okay, now we have time, or now we have room to put in 20 of the good words that we talked about, and we will look for that. I always, there are always some keywords that are more key than others, so
Hmm.
say you've got about 5 things that you want to make sure you really get in. This person is absolutely strategic. So one of the things that's happened in the LinkedIn skills inventory is that it's gotten much deeper. So
Hmm.
that, 15 years ago, we might have picked leadership and been satisfied. Now there are 15 different flavors of leadership. And the more specific we are, the more we get um, double credit almost, because instead of just leadership, we've got technical leadership or clinical leadership or
Hmm.
cross-functional team leadership. That one has cross-functional, team, and leadership. And each one of those is a key word. So we've got, for one skill, we've got 3 keywords that are operating for us. Um, if strategy is a big thing, we look under strategy and we pick as many as really hit the nail on the head. And then we go to the others. And when we see some that are so good that we don't leave them on the table and not put them in, we say, okay, now we have to go back and take some more of your skills out. So we have room for the good ones. And my suggestion to people is that they not fret over the endorsements they're going to lose by cutting out an old skill. That it is more powerful to have a skill that really fits them well and that describes what it is that they love to do than some skill that really doesn't fit them. For instance, if you're working with the national sales manager and they have their on their skills list sales. Well, yes, they know about sales, but so does the guy who sells pizza coupons to me at the door. They know about motivating sales teams. They know about, national account management. They know bigger things. And so we spend 45 minutes to an hour going through that exercise, and sometimes even longer, because it is so exciting to see in our first session how we can up level someone's skills. And they get excited about, oh my gosh, this sounds like me. All of a sudden they see that I've heard them. That listening session that I did to hear them talk about their brand, I heard them, and we are actualizing it in that skills section right in the first meeting. So it's very powerful. I love doing that skills exercise.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've never thought about it that way. Something that we do to pick, because sometimes you have to pick, right? And it's difficult. You might have several, is to run the keywords through SEO tools, because then you can quantify the value of each. There's a lot of SEO tools that would tell you, they kind of like reverse engineer the value of having traffic for a particular keyword, depending on the traffic that the keyword gets, the difficulty and the value, and especially the intent behind the keyword, right? Because you could have some intent that it's to purchase or to hire someone, like LinkedIn coach or LinkedIn coach packages would probably be more valuable than just what does a LinkedIn coach do? Because somebody who's searching for that packages is closer to making that decision. So that might be something else that people can do to pick the keywords. And now, do you have any recommendations on how to get those endorsements? Because I don't remember in which book I read it, but it was great. It's a methodology that I've been using for a while, that it was to ask people that people in your network to endorse you for whatever they feel comfortable with, right? And it was a super mindful script that you would personalize the first part, so it's not just copy and paste, and then you do it with people that you have a closer connection than just a LinkedIn connection, right? You've gone to school with them, you've worked with them, they know you, they trust you. But what happened was that I did it so repeatedly that the algorithm thought I was using a bot. So I actually got banned from LinkedIn temporarily for several times, and I thought I was going to be exiled. For a while they told me you were banned from LinkedIn because of non-compliance with the guidelines, because they thought I was using a bot. I sent all those messages, I got all those profile views, which to them was an unusually large amount because all those people came from my profile, and they endorsed me because they were people that knew me. So at first they thought it was a bot and I got denied. So I wanted to preface the question with that story, because I wanted to get your thoughts on what's your typical recommendation for people that wanna, okay, I decided to eliminate this one. It had a lot of endorsements. Now with this new one, that it speaks more to what I'm actually doing, to my expertise, but I have 0 endorsements. Where do I go from there?
Okay. There's one other element that I need to talk about skills before I get to that question, and that is that currently the top 3 skills are the most important. They are we think that they get extra weight in the algorithm. And so often I've left my clients with 3 new skills in the top 3 spaces, none of which are endorsed. And, so that's hard to deal with. So I have never run into anyone who has been so faithful as to execute as you did, almost machine-like but I do suggest to people that they mention when they are with someone or in a networking thing, hey, we just redid my LinkedIn profile, my consultant and I, and I'm really excited about the top endorsements or the top skills that I have in my profile now, but I have a problem and they're not endorsed. Could you give me an endorsement if you're comfortable? And that I've never had anybody be as effective as you were, but I do suggest that they try to reach out for endorsements. And one of the things that I usually do is endorse them, right after we've given them, so that they've at least got one going there.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. It worked, and I got the endorsements because he was all people I trusted, and I think that's what helped. I think what happens is that there's an algorithm that sees these interactions, and it automatically does the shadow bans, or how they call it. And then if it happens several times, they just ban you. And what happened, I think, is that somebody then, because what I was asking when I was sending my request is like, hey, look at the interactions so that you can see it's actual people, and I got the endorsements. So they probably went through then manually through the messages, and they saw, hey, this is actually people that came and endorsed, because I did increase a lot the endorsements for those skills. So it does help.
Yeah.
But I would say, yeah, do it instead of
Gently.
I hustle and I go in. I'm obsessive with the things that I do. So I just did a bunch in a week. I would say pace yourself and maybe pick different days so that you don't flag the algorithm.
Yes.
So that you don't get banned.
Another thing about endorsements, I used to get people who would connect with me, endorse 50 skills, and then say, I just endorsed your 50 skills. Now you do mine. And I would have to say to them, that isn't the way that I play the game. We don't know each other. And so in thanks, I will go to your profile. I will read it. And the top 3 skills that come to my mind when I read your profile, I will endorse 3 skills. And to this day, I recommend that when someone is endorsing skills, that they endorse only 3 at a time. And the reason is that it is a very special nurturing tool. And you don't want to use all of your nurturing times at once. You want to, endorse them for 3. And then the next time you need a little interaction, you endorse them for 3 more. And so it's kind of the little drip campaign. So, the notion of having someone just endorse all skills, I think is fairly ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think LinkedIn is getting smarter about that, because it usually goes that an algorithm is created, somebody figures it out, and they game the system, and then it evolves, and that's how it happens. Because now they ask you to say the level of skill in which you would value that person,
Right.
and then how is it that you know?
Yes, absolutely.
So then it's like, okay, did you work with them? How is it that you know that
Yes.
that this person is skilled at this? So yeah, definitely be mindful of using your endorsements as well, because then the algorithm might tag you as not valuable if you just endorse everyone
Yes.
out there. Now, Carol, we've talked about many different things. We've talked about speaking, we've talked about LinkedIn and optimizing in many different topics, but I wanted to get your take on this question that some people dread, some people love. And it's a question, when people ask you, what do you do? What is your typical answer?
Well, I usually say something like this. Alejandro, I know that you are looking for new clients all the time. Do you ever get nervous when you see that potential clients are looking at your profile? Are you ever concerned at who's looking and what they're seeing? If you have, I'm the answer to that problem. I work with senior level executives to tee up the conversation. And I do that through personal branding on LinkedIn so that you can attract right for you opportunities, increase your visibility and influence, and control your careers. So that's what
I
I do.
love it. I love it when people have a preface, a good story to hook people in, because it shows that you're mindful about who you're telling that, right? Like
Right.
you're not just pitch slapping your 30-second pitch on someone. You're
Yeah.
really thinking about how is it that that can be memorable and help them. Now, Carol, for anyone out there listening and they're curious about everything we've spoken about, who is that person that can make the most out of the services you offer? We've talked about LinkedIn, optimizing, and being sure that your presence there reflects who you are, a professional. But I'm sure there's someone, a particular persona or person that can make the most out of what you offer and
Oh,
make the most ROI of that. Who is that person?
okay. So for me, that person is a senior level executive who is looking for a new opportunity, whether they're on the wrong side of the door, as we talked about, or whether they're still inside, or whether the new opportunity is actually within the company and they are looking to make it possible for their company to do business with a bigger something than they've ever done before, and they need a bigger presence. So any of the pain points, but someone who is fearful that their job may be pulled out from under them because of a merger. Those are my people. My people are over 50. My people are experts in what they do. They're the sharpest crayons in the box. They are people who shine really brightly in the room. I make them shine that brightly on this platform.
That sounds great. Now, Carol, I'm sure we could spend hours and hours talking about executive branding and LinkedIn and personal branding because we love those topics, but I want to be mindful of your time. Are there any parting thoughts, any call to actions that you would like to share with the audience?
Well, I would like to recommend my book. So this is my book, LinkedIn for the Savvy Executive. It's available in its second edition since last year, so it's very current. It won Book Authority's Best LinkedIn Books of All Time Award, and just this month, it's been named one of the 100 best business books by the C-Suite Network. So it's a great book. You can, of course, get it on Amazon, but if you would like to get an author inscribed copy, I would be so delighted to send you one from my website. I'd love you to go to my website. Anyway, it's https:// Kaemmerer, all one word.com. And on my website, you will see my book, which goes well beyond just how to put together a great profile, and talks about the strategy that we can use with this most important business tool. How do we carry our brand forward on a digital platform? It's got a lot of endorsements, and it really is a book for all time. It's great. I also have a course for people who want to do it themselves. It is a course on developing your online brand online, your LinkedIn profile. And then also you can inquire about my one-on-one services.
Well, thank you very much, Carol. We'll make sure to link to all of those in the show notes and in the podcast page. We appreciate your time and sharing your insights with the audience. And for anybody out there listening to the episodes, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks so much. What a pleasure.